When the first tremor shook his hand during a late-night strategy meeting, Liam Spencer convinced himself it was exhaustion, a flicker born of running on adrenaline after months of wrangling the Spencer-Forrester legacy. But when the tremors returned, subtle at first and then fierce enough to send important papers flying across the conference table, the truth could no longer be denied. Something inside him had shifted. A hidden tumor, nested deep within the folds of his brain, was growing with malevolent intention, distorting his focus, threatening not only his career but the very essence of who he was. Hope Logan, ever his unwavering champion, insisted on immediate tests. Steffi Forrester, torn between loyalty to her family and her simmering, guilt-laced devotion to Liam, pressed him to see a specialist far from the familiar halls of Los Angeles Memorial. There, under the unblinking fluorescent lights of an off-the-record medical wing, the diagnosis arrived like a gunshot, a malignant mass, aggressive and expanding, straddling both hemispheres, defying every conventional treatment. Chemo, radiation, standard neurosurgery, each option carried risks so grave they might as well have been poison. As days bled into nights of whispered consultations and anguished meetings, a clandestine opportunity surfaced. Dr. Veronica Hale, a brilliant but maverick neurosurgeon operating on the fringes of regulatory approval, had pioneered an experimental procedure, an invasive, high-stakes approach so untested that the FDA's gaze had never touched it. The surgical technique involved precise ablation of the tumor's core using ultrasonic microprobes guided by real-time neural mapping, combined with a novel oncolytic agent directly infused into the resection cavity. Early animal trials hinted at miraculous recoveries. Human trials were non-existent. Hale, armed with a reputation for brilliance and controversy, offered a single slot. Her contract demanded Liam's immediate consent and a waiver promising to absolve her of any liability. Hope and Steffi confronted Liam in his study, the afternoon sun falling in a calm deceiving Liam's turmoil. Paper in hand, Liam's signature would become a pact with the unknown. Hope's eyes glistened with tears, her hand trembling as she pressed it to his. Steffi's jaw set in steel, betrayal and fear warring in her gaze. Liam hesitated only a moment, long enough for the weight of his mortality to fully settle in his chest, then signed. The preoperative ritual was hushed and solemn, Hope stroking Liam's hair as he drifted under anesthesia, Steffi clutching Hope's hand as they watched him vanish behind the doors, Dr. Hale nodding with clinical detachment. For 8 hours, time skewed. Monitors beeped, surgical tools whirred, and beyond the frosted glass, Hope and Steffi hovered on the edge of despair. The procedure, Hale reported with cautious optimism, had gone according to plan. The tumor's core was excised, the oncolytic agent released precisely where it was needed, and Liam's vitals remained within acceptable ranges. Yet within hours, an alarm shattered Hope's fragile relief. Liam's brain, swelled and battered by the radical surgery, had gone into crisis. Intracranial pressure spiked, the interventions meant to control it faltered, and despite an emergency decompression, Liam flatlined on the monitors, slipping into a deep coma. In that sterile ICU room, surrounded by humming machines and the sharp odor of antiseptic, Hope and Steffi faced a new battle, for Liam's life and for control of the vast Spencer-Forrester empire. With Liam unconscious, the corporate war that had simmered for months erupted into full-scale conflict. Rich Forrester saw a chance to reclaim design dominance. Bill Spencer, eager to cement his son's legacy, maneuvered to tighten his grip on half the shares. Attorneys drafted feints and counterfeits of Liam's will, each claiming entitlement to the Forbes top-earning soap opera heir. Hope, named medical proxy by Liam in a confidential directive, confronted Steffi, whom Liam had entrusted with broader stewardship in his absence. Their alliance, once uneasy, now forged in shared love and desperation, faced its toughest trial, consenting to remove life support. Hope hovered at Liam's bedside, whispering memories of sunlit mornings at the beach, of whispered vows beneath the grand staircase of the Forrester mansion. Steffi, silent at first, finally found words, recollections of prom nights shared, of Lawrence's parties where Liam had carved her initials in a tree. Together, they negotiated with Dr. Hale and the Hospital Ethics Committee. The law recognized Liam's right to refuse extraordinary measures, the unapproved nature of his surgery cast doubt on the mandate to preserve his life at all costs. Yet hope clung to hope, every fiber of her being revolted at the thought of pulling the plug. Steffi, more pragmatic, reminded Hope that the man they loved, the spirit behind Liam's steady gaze, might already be gone. Tensions cracked through their partnership as Bill Spencer arrived, flanked by high-priced lawyers and a camera crew eager for a sensational update. He offered Hope the world, control of Liam's stakes in Spencer Publications, immunity from legal reprisal, even a pact to support the Logan legacy. Ridge cut in on Steffi's side, promising to elevate Forrester Creations to new heights in Liam's absence. Loyalty blurred beneath corporate promises, and Hope and Steffi sensed the noose of power tightening around their decisions. Late one stormy night, with thunder rattling the windows, Hope and Steffi convened a final heart-to-heart. In the dim glow of the ICU lamp, they shared a single understanding: no boardroom victory, no inheritance, no empire would ever replace the man lying before them. Liam's signature on that waiver was an echo of his last act of agency. To respect it meant honoring his choice to fight and to let go. With trembling hands, Hope reached for the medical directive. Steffi placed her hand over Hope's, tears carving luminous paths down her cheeks. The rhythm of Liam's ventilator became a solitary hymn to their agony. At dawn, Hope signed the order. The machines, like reluctant witnesses, continued their steady hum until nurses gently lowered the ventilator's settings. Steffi stood guard, leaning over Liam's still form, murmuring promises of legacy co-presidencies, of keeping his vision alive. The moment the respirator switched off, a hush fell, an absence louder than any storm. The monitors ticked downward until the line flattened. Outside the window, the first light of morning spilled across the horizon, as if beckoning a new chapter. In the weeks that followed, legal papers fluttered like fallen leaves, absorbed by courts and committees. Hope, battered but resolute, emerged as co-trustee of Spencer Forrester Holdings, vowing to leverage the merger Liam had envisioned. Steffi, scarred by grief, redirected her creative genius to design a commemorative couture line, the Liam Spencer Tribute Collection, donating proceeds to brain tumor research. Their alliance, born of love and pain, became a bulwark against the sharks circling their shared world. Though Liam lay silent in the morgue, his spirit animated every board meeting, every stitch of fabric, every whispered vow between Hope and Steffi. In his absence, they forged a bond wrought in heartbreak and steel, determined that his final sacrifice, signing for that forbidden surgery, would not end in tragedy but in a legacy of unity and purpose. And every morning, as the sun rose over Los Angeles, they honored his memory not with tears alone but with the fierce determination to shape his empire in a way he would have been proud to call his own. Wyatt Spencer's journey back to Los Angeles began with the weight of Liam's absence pressuring every step he took off the plane. The Spencer Forrester estate, once a battleground for power and legacy, felt hollow without Liam's steady presence and quick smile. From the moment Wyatt arrived, grief and regret painted every encounter with Hope Logan in shades of agonizing gray. The funeral service, set against the backdrop of the Forrester mansion's lush gardens, was meant to celebrate Liam's life, a man beloved for his kindness, his devotion to Hope, his unwavering loyalty to family. Instead, it exploded into a crucible of raw emotion and unspoken longing. As mourners gathered beneath a sky heavy with tears, Wyatt and Hope found themselves pulled into each other's orbits by the force of shared sorrow. Wyatt, whose life had too often felt overshadowed by Liam's accomplishments, now felt a kinship with Hope born of the same knife to the heart. Each glance they exchanged brimmed with memories of days when rivalry had defined them, when neither could foresee a future forged in loss rather than competition. Hope, her eyes rimmed red but her posture unyielding, delivered a eulogy that wove together laughter and tears. She spoke of Liam's courage, how he fought the unseen tumor with a hero's resolve, how he'd refused to let fear dictate his final days. Her voice cracked when she recalled their last moments, standing by his bedside as he drifted into the surgical coma that would become permanent. Wyatt, standing just behind her, felt the words like a fist to his chest. He longed to reach out, to hold her hand as they had once shared after nights of teenage upheaval, but Hope's grief seemed to erect a barrier more impenetrable than any corporate fortress. Carter Walton hovered nearby, his expression a mixture of sympathy and frustration, as he watched Hope lean on Ridge and even Steffi, but not on him. For months, Carter had courted Hope with gentle dinners, thoughtful gifts, and words of reassurance. Now every gesture felt inadequate against the magnitude of her loss. The funeral's floral canopy, strung overhead like a too delicate promise, could not contain the tension as Carter's earnest pleas for closeness were drowned out by Hope's unspoken bond with Wyatt. When the service ended and the casket descended, Wyatt slipped an arm around Hope's shoulders as the first shovelfuls of earth fell. The simple act, once dismissed as a courtesy among friends, carried the weight of something more profound. Hope stiffened, then melted into his embrace, and for a fleeting moment the entire world contracted to that single pulse of shared pain. Carter, standing a few paces away, forced a smile that did nothing to mask his hurt. He had hoped that Liam's passing would bring him closer to Hope, that in her vulnerability she might see him not only as a friend but as a refuge. Instead, he found himself sidelined as Wyatt, whose heart he had never thought poised to win Hope's again, became her unexpected pillar. When the crowd dispersed into small clusters of consolation, the tension between the four of them crystallized into agonizing clarity. Hope was torn between the memory of the man she had loved and the man who now offered to bandage her wounds. Carter yearned to fill the void left by Liam but faced a rival he had never anticipated. And Wyatt, who had once envied his brother's place in Hope's life, discovered in grief the power to claim it, even if only temporarily, even if Hope's heart remained tangled in the past. That evening, Hope retreated to the Logan family beach house, a place where she and Liam had forged countless memories, sunlit laughter, whispered dreams under starlit skies, promises sealed in sandcastles washed away by the tide. Wyatt followed, compelled by a need to ensure she was not alone. The rhythmic pounding of waves against the shore matched the pounding of their hearts as they crossed the threshold. Carter, learning of Wyatt's intrusion through a terse text from Hope, arrived shortly after, determined to stand by her until she chose him or shut him out completely. Inside, Hope sank onto the weathered sofa, its white paint peeling like fragile hope itself, and Wyatt sat beside her, offering quiet comfort. He remembered how, years ago, he had loved her with a puppyish devotion, how Liam's shadow had loomed large over their fledgling romance. Now, with Liam gone, those memories carried new weight, an echo of love that might have been reclaimed, a second chance forged in tragedy. Hope closed her eyes, leaning her head against Wyatt's shoulder, and something in him unclenched, the guilt that had bound him to Liam's legacy, the resentment that had severed his hope for happiness. In that moment, he was not the brother who survived, he was the man who could survive for her. Carter's arrival shattered the fragile peace. He found them side by side, a tableau of intimacy that spoke louder than words. Hope's eyes fluttered open, and she drew an invisible line between Wyatt and herself as she welcomed Carter with a polite smile. But Wyatt's presence lingered in the air like the scent of sea salt, and Carter's practiced composure cracked. "Hope, are you okay?" he asked softly, but Wyatt's steady gaze met his before Hope could answer. "She's fine," Wyatt interjected, his voice low but firm. Carter bristled, pain flashing across his features. "Hope's not your responsibility." Wyatt's eyes darkened. "Then let me be hers." The words, simple and unguarded, landed between them like a challenge. Hope looked from Wyatt to Carter, torn by gratitude for Carter's constancy and an unbreakable history with Wyatt that now blazed with unexpected passion. Carter closed the distance, placing a hand on Hope's arm. "I've been here for you," he said, voice trembling. "Not just today, but every day since Liam got sick. I'll be here as long as you'll let me." Hope's gaze wavered, caught between two pillars of support, past and present, brother-in-law and friend, memory and promise. As night deepened, the three of them stood on the veranda, the ocean's roar a soundtrack to their emotional crossfire. Hope inhaled, trying to steady the tumult within. She thought of Liam, his final choice to authorize experimental surgery, his fight for life, and his ultimate surrender. She thought of the unbreakable bond she had shared with him, and she thought of the emptiness now widening inside her. Wyatt, sensing her inner fracture, reached out once more, but Carter intercepted his hand with his own, fingers entwined in a silent duel. Hope let out a shuddering breath. "Stop," she pleaded, tears glimmering in her eyelashes. "Please." They froze, each man's gaze locked on her. Hope swallowed. "I need time. I need space." Carter released her arm and nodded, stepping back. Wyatt's shoulders slumped as he let his hands fall to his sides. The ocean wind carried away the tension, leaving behind an ache that seemed to stretch into the horizon. In the days that followed, Hope retreated into herself, attending corporate meetings for Spencer Forrester in stoic silence, honoring Liam's vision with a professionalism that bordered on mechanical. Wyatt returned to his roles at Forrester Creations, dedicating himself to a new memorial line in Liam's honor while wrestling with the question of whether his emerging feelings for Hope were born of genuine love or the shadow of loss. Carter, undeterred by Hope's distance, continued to offer gentle companionship, breakfast at Il Giardino, surprise deliveries of Hope's favorite pastries, whispered assurances delivered through late-night texts. Yet Hope's heart remained a battleground, echoes of Liam's laughter mingling with memories of Wyatt's kindness and Carter's unwavering loyalty. Then came the gala. A fundraising event for the Liam Spencer Foundation, meant to commemorate Liam's legacy and raise money for brain tumor research. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and sea blue ribbons, guests dressed in their finest to honor the man who had touched so many lives. Hope stood at the podium, delivering a speech that combined her deep sorrow with steely resolve, dedicating the evening to Liam's memory. As she spoke, Wyatt watched from the sidelines, his pulse thrumming not only with pride but with the fierce desire to protect her. Carter, seated at the head table, raised a glass at the mention of her name, his eyes never leaving hers. But Hope's gaze, once confident and composed, flickered between the two men as though searching for a single truth in a storm of conflicting emotions. After the speech, guests mingled, and Hope found herself cornered by both Wyatt and Carter. One approaching from her right with a gentle question about the foundation's next steps, the other from her left with an offer to walk her home. Hope, caught in their converging paths, took a breath and let out a small laugh, half wearied, half tearful. "Boys," she said, raising her hands in mock surrender. "You can't both win." Wyatt and Carter exchanged a tense glance. Wyatt's lips quirked into a sad smile. "Then maybe I'm not trying to win," he said softly. Carter's eyes narrowed. "Then what are you trying to do?" Hope looked between them, her voice barely above a whisper, "I'm trying to survive." In that moment, the world shifted, no longer a binary choice but a testament to her own strength. She realized that Liam's love, like a guiding star, still illuminated her path, and that she owed him the courage to choose not out of fear or obligation but out of her deepest conviction. Whether that led her back to Wyatt, forward with Carter, or alone, she would carry Liam's memory as both anchor and sail. As the gala lights dimmed and the last guest departed, Hope found herself standing alone on the veranda, gazing out at the city lights mirrored on the ocean. Behind her came footsteps, first Wyatt's, then Carter's. They stood at either side of her, silent sentinels in the calm after the storm. Hope inhaled the salty air, the horizon stretching boundlessly before her. She felt the presence of three men, Liam, whose final act of love still held her heart, Wyatt, whose return had awakened feelings she thought long buried, and Carter, whose steadfast devotion offered a new kind of promise. She turned to them both and spoke, voice steady and clear despite the swirl of emotion. "Thank you, for everything. But right now, I'm no one's prize." Carter's jaw clenched, Wyatt's brow furrowed. "I need time to heal, to find out who I am without Liam by my side. And then, maybe," she let the sentence hang like an unspoken invitation. "We'll see." With that, she left them standing under the stars, each man contemplating a future shaped by Hope's irrevocable choice. And as Hope vanished into the night, the love quadrangle that had defined Spencer Logan history shifted once again, no longer just a battle for hearts but a testament to forgiveness, to growth, and to the enduring power of love in all its forms.